You know, we're always told that smoking is just a bad habit. But what if I told you the real story is so much deeper? A story about a chemical hacker that hijacks the most ancient parts of your brain. Today, we're going to take a journey into the science of smoking to understand why it's one of the hardest habits in the world to break.
So here's how we're going to break it all down. We'll start with the paradox of smoking, then jump into its very strange history, get into the nitty-gritty of the brain science, look at the real cost of it all, and finally, explore something you might not expect, how it can actually change your personality. All right, let's kick things off with the central puzzle, the big question at the heart of all this. It's wild when you think about it, right? For decades, the health warnings have been everywhere. We all know the risks, and yet millions and millions of people are still hooked. So what's going on? Well, there's an incredibly powerful and kind of sneaky mechanism at work here, and that's exactly what we're about to pull apart. To really get why tobacco has such a powerful hold on us today, we actually have to go way back. Its journey through human history is a lot weirder than you probably think. It went from a plant used in ancient ceremonies to a gigantic global business.
So just look at this timeline. We're talking over 12,000 years of humans and tobacco. But you can see a couple of key moments that changed everything. First, Columbus brings it over to Europe, where people thought it was some kind of miracle cure-all. Then, boom, 1880, the cigarette machine is invented. That's what took it from a niche thing to a product you could find anywhere on the planet.
And if you want to know just how weird the perception of tobacco was, get this. Back in the 18th century, they had something called a tobacco enema. Yeah, you heard me right. They literally thought that blowing smoke, well, you know where, could bring drowning victims back to life. It's a pretty stark reminder of how much our scientific understanding has changed.
Okay, enough history. Let's get to the real core of this explainer, the neurochemistry. This is where we find out what is actually happening inside the brain that makes this habit so incredibly difficult to stop.
7 seconds. That's it. That's all the time it takes for nicotine from a single puff to go from your lungs into your blood and slam right into your brain. It is an unbelievably efficient delivery system. So here's how that 7-second invasion works. You inhale, nicotine hitches a ride in your bloodstream. It races to your brain, and once it's there, it plugs into these special receptors, which basically flips a switch. And that switch unleashes a huge flood of dopamine, the brain's pleasure chemical. That feeling, that dopamine rush, is the reward that smokers are constantly chasing.
Now here's the really brilliant and kind of devious part. Nicotine is a master impersonator. Think of it like a chemical hacker. Your brain already has a reward system, and it uses a natural key called acetylcholine to unlock it. Nicotine's shape is so similar that it can fit into the same locks, hijacking the whole system and turning it on whenever it wants.
I absolutely love this quote from our source material because it reframes the whole experience. That feeling of satisfaction isn't really about the tobacco. It's the sensation of your brain's reward system being successfully hacked. It's your brain basically saying, I've been tricked, but hey, this feels pretty good.
And this is where the trap really snaps shut. Your brain is an amazing organ. It adapts. To deal with this constant, unnatural flooding of nicotine, it physically changes. It literally grows more of these receptors, more of these locks, which means over time, you need more and more nicotine just to get the same feeling you started with. That right there is the biological root of tolerance and addiction.
So now we know how the hijacking works, but let's talk about the consequences. This chemically engineered pleasure comes at a seriously steep price, not just in its addictive power, but in the physical damage it does to the body.
When scientists actually ranked 20 different drugs based on how addictive they are, the results were pretty eye-opening. You can see it right here. Nicotine is number 3. Only heroin and cocaine are considered more addictive. It's even higher on the list than things like amphetamines. And a huge reason for that is that super fast 7-second delivery system that reinforces the habit with every single puff.
And the addiction to nicotine, that's really just the hook. Nicotine is the reason you keep coming back, but it's the smoke that does the real damage. We're talking about a toxic cocktail of over 7,000 chemicals. In that mix, there are at least 69 chemicals known to cause cancer. We're talking poisons like arsenic and benzene. It's this chemical assault that leads to such a brutal list of diseases.
But the impact doesn't stop with the physical body. There's some fascinating evidence that suggests this long-term chemical hijacking can do more than just rewire your brain's reward circuits. It might actually change who you are as a person.
So a very large study tracked the personalities of over 15,000 people using a standard model called the Big Five Traits. The results were pretty striking. Over time, smokers tended to become higher in what's called neuroticism. That's being more prone to anxiety and moodiness. And at the same time, they became lower in the other 4 traits: openness, extroversion, agreeableness, and conscientiousness.
Now, the source material summarizes those findings in a really blunt way. It's a bit of an exaggeration to make a point, of course, but it translates those clinical terms into a pretty stark picture of what that kind of personality shift could look like in the real world. And maybe the most unsettling finding from this research was the idea that some of these shifts in personality might not completely bounce back, even after someone quits smoking. Now, it's super important to remember, as the source points out, this is just one study. But it really raises some deep questions about the long-term, lasting impact of the habit. And that leaves us right here with this final thought. When we see the science, a brain that's been physically changed, a reward system that's been completely taken over, and maybe even a personality that's been reshaped, it forces us to ask a really tough question. At that point, is the choice to light up still a totally rational one? It really makes you rethink the nature of addiction itself, where the habit ends and where the person begins.